I can. I'm sorry about that. I tried to use my iPad and it just, so thank you for sending me the link.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, did that work? Okay, there you are. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. We have first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't have a flag, but pretend we have one. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So our first order of business is to talk about transfers. You know, we have to do some intra-department transfers and inter-department transfers, which need the approval of the Board of Finance. Earlier today, I sent you the spreadsheet with the transfers. Marcia, you want to bring that up?
Yes, I do.
So everybody can see it?
Mm-hmm.
Probably make it a little easier. So these are pretty straightforward.
You want me to talk a little about them, Steve?
Yeah, go ahead, Marcia.
All right, so the column in orange is just within the departments, and I tried to say if it was salary, why we needed extra salary. For example, Steve's salary changed mid-year. I did a formula based on the total salary, so my accrual was a little wrong. Some of them were perfect attendance, but the other ones are just little changes within the department. There is nothing too substantial within those. And then the yellow column is inter-department transfers. That'll require a Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. And if you look through them, they're, with the exception of 3 items, they are all negative items that we're taking the extra money and moving it. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute. The ones that we're looking for extra money is up here under technical consulting. That's the HR attorney, the pension attorney that are in that line. And we need a little bit more money for that. We had a union negotiation this year. We thought we were going to continue the police union into next year. And instead, and we had money in the budget next year. Instead, we spent it this year. So between the 2 years, it is a save. The only other place that we're adding money to a department is in public works. COVID, we're adding money. And then I think public works is the other one where there's just some money added, and that's because I took some money from him. He had said, no, all our invoices are in, you can have the rest. But the invoices were past him, but they hadn't been approved yet and into the system. So I took the money and we needed to cover it. But most of the money we're taking and we're putting down here. Let me try to get that a little bit bigger for you. That if you remember correctly, that we have a surplus this year, and we want to use it next year as a contingency. And we did that in the budget. We talked about it, and instead of using having the surplus, if we keep it in the general fund, it goes to fund balance. And then next year we would have a deficit budget and we would use some fund balance. And that's kind of frowned upon when we're going for the ratings of how much fund balance did we use. And so instead we're manipulating the system a little bit in a legal and good way. And we're going to take that extra money and we're going to move it to the capital non-recurring fund. And then some of it comes back in as a transfer back in next year. And the reason we're doing it now is just so we can be squeaky clean and do it before the end of the year. We don't have the Board of Ed numbers yet. There will be some more in some of our departments, but they weren't comfortable releasing it quite yet. But we wanted to make sure that we at least had what we budgeted for next year in as a budget transfer this year, because we would hate to have the auditor say, oh no, that was done after year end, we're not going to count it. They've never said it, but Steve suggested it and got me nervous enough to say, oh, well, let's make sure we get this right. And since we had to have a meeting anyway for the public hearing, that's why we're doing these transfers now.
Mar-
Anyway,
Marcia, I have two quick questions.
sure.
One, is it going to be kind of a new normal to be transferring funds monthly for COVID? I mean, can we kind of expect this?
We talked about the budget being an iterative process. So this one is pulling extra money out so we can have it next year for COVID. And then next year, as we go through the year, we did what we thought was our worst case scenario budget. And so the Board of Finance are going to have something on their agenda every month, and probably the Board of Selectmen should too, that review of budget, just so that one, whatever costs we have, we still don't know the costs to open the school. So that'll be this summer. Whatever costs we have there, plus if our revenue is better than what we had expected and we're confident in releasing that, we can add to the budgets throughout the year. So it will be normal for next year at least.
Right.
Yeah, and historically, Harry, our charter calls for us to make contemporaneous transfers as we recognize them, as we realize we don't have enough money here and we need to move money somewhere else. We're supposed to do that within a short period of time. In the past, the town has waited to the end of the year has passed and then do them all at once.
Right.
So
Okay.
we're following the charter now much more closely.
Sounds good. My other question is there a reason why we don't have the information from the Board of Ed?
They're going to give us, we asked for if there was a number that they felt comfortable with. We've been trying to get a weekly call with them, and we're just not having a lot of luck, but we do have a call set up on Wednesday. And I think that the biggest thing is that we can go through, Steve and I can go through and give you the numbers without a lot of red tape. And at the Board of Ed side, Ken and the business manager and superintendent would have to go to the finance committee, who goes to the Board of Ed. So they just have more red tape to get it done.
Okay.
But they
And it's-
haven't told us anything that's going to change. Right now they're at about, I think, 478,000 in saves. And they have not said that is going to change substantially. So I think that's where we're going to end up right now.
Okay.
And Steve, it's my understanding, talking about COVID, that we are starting to submit bills for that, and we should anticipate getting some money sooner than others. Some may take years, some could be a little bit quicker from the state anyway.
Yeah, well, we met with FEMA today, closing out the macro burst.
Oh boy.
We're trying to close out the macro burst. I don't have a lot of confidence, even though the governor and FEMA and Demis have all said this is going to be an expedited process. I can't see it. I can't see it happening unless they change the rules. And so my opinion is we're going to be carrying these accounts receivable for a while. I don't think it'll be as bad right now if they do what they say they're going to do. I don't think it'll be as bad as a macro burst, 18 to 24 months later. But I don't expect, although they're shooting for 30 days on some things, I just don't see how they can do it.
And FEMA is just one of the sources. That the source that we have received money from so far is the Department of Public Health. It's a federal grant that goes through the Connecticut Department of Public Health.
Right.
We've been allocated 14,000. We received our March amount for 1,400, and we got April and May reports in on time so that they could pay them in this fiscal year, the state's fiscal year. So we expect to get that money shortly, but it's not a lot of money. That we've got money for those two. We've got money with the education has got a little less than $75,000. That was supposed to be freed up on last Friday, but I don't know the requirements to draw it down. And then we're working, the reason we're having the public hearing is working through the rules to try to get the small cities grant money, both the allocation that we have for housing rehab and a new allocation available for spending. And the requirements to get any money from the state is those 4 federal grants have to come first. And the spending for the small cities has to be after it's approved. The other ones are reimbursement grants. That one is a grant where whatever you're going to spend it on is approved first, and then you can spend it. And then we have a state grant for anything that we have spent by June 30th.
And paid for and received.
And received and paid for. And we're trying to get all those bills in and paid by June 30th. They're unsure of whether they'll let us carry over our allocation or not. Everything on these grants is all unsure.
Yeah, all up in the air.
Very good. Thank you.
So
Maybe you just need to take that heavy elbow and lean on Hartford here.
and that leads us into our second subject here, the small cities grant, block grants. We've been using them to help residents put on a new roof. Yes.
I'm sorry, did we need to make a motion on the budget transfers?
Oh, yeah, we do. I'm sorry. I'll make a motion that we transfer the funds that are authorized by the Board of Selectmen to transfer and to send to the Board of Finance, those ones that also need their approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Sue seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries 3-0. So on the Small Cities Block Grant, it turns out that not only can we assist residents in putting a new furnace or a new driveway or a new roof on their houses, part of those funds we might be able to use for the coronavirus pandemic. But to do that, there's a number of hoops we have to jump through. And one of them is to have a public hearing to enlarge the scope of our grant, of the grant process. So I'm looking for the grant for the wording. There it is.
Do you want me to make the motion? I have it right here.
Yeah, I could do it. I make a motion that the selectmen schedule a public hearing for the small city block grant COVID grant on Monday, July 6th at 6:45. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second. So any further discussion? This is just another source of funding for us.
Yeah,
Which would be good.
great.
We're scrambling to get every type of funding we can get.
Yeah. How'd you figure this one out?
Marcia found this in reading
you,
the small
Marcia.
print in the Small Cities book.
Thank you, Marcia.
So any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries 3-0. So now I think we can move to public comment. I see we have Frank on. Frank, do you have any comments or questions or issues you want to discuss?
I do. Frank Quoke, 40 Deer Run Road. I wanted to ask one question. During the June 18th Planning Commission meeting, it was stated with some degree of certainty and by Bruce McDonald that in fact, the bowling alley that we all know and love is slated to have condominiums built on that property. The reason that was mentioned was because there was the immediate topic was the developer of Brookfield Village has some type of potential plan about putting townhouses on Station Road.
Correct.
And then the question came up, well, what about municipal parking? That led Bruce to mention that, oh, yes, by the way, that white building, that ramshackle rundown building on Station Road is slated to become an emergency access point for fire emergency equipment for those condominiums. I'm simply asking, is this true? Is this going to happen?
There's a number of different subjects there. Okay, so Tony Lucera has a project north of the Brookfield bowling alley. It's been approved for many years.
Okay.
Part of that access approval is getting an access road at the back of the bowling alley property, which then runs through 20 Station Road where the dry cleaners were, that ugly white building we're trying to get taken down.
Right.
All he has is an access, an easement for a road. My hope is that we can still get that property because it is a brownfield. It cannot be remediated. There's no way to remediate the dry cleaning that's there. Is that we could either get an easement or purchase the property for municipal parking. Second, I've seen nothing come into town hall about anything going on the bowling alley.
Okay.
There have been conversations about that for 10 years, but nothing has come into town hall that I'm aware of that somebody, the McCartys have never sold anything they've owned. So I think that would be hard for them to do. And I think I would have heard about it because I think the developers would have come in to have a discussion first.
Okay.
The second thing is the Brookfield Village Group has asked on Station Road 7, 10, 11, I believe, to put in townhouses with no commercial on the first floor. That's what they've asked for. That would require a change in the zoning or other application. There's a couple different ways they could go. I don't know which way the zoning board is going to go. One of the things Brookfield Village is willing to do is if you can like have half of the building on the ground floor be commercial facing the street and the back half non-commercial. My feeling is that they feel that given this pandemic and what's going on, it's going to be really, really hard to get commercial tenants in any new space. So they still have to go through the zoning board and the zoning board of appeal on that. I don't know how they're going to respond. Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. I mean, the reason I was on the planning meeting was because being on the zoning commission, we reached out to the planning commission for their input.
Right.
And on June 18th, they kicked it right back to us and said, go watch our meeting. So
That was a little rude.
yeah, well, in effect, that's what they said. And they were laughing about it, that they're just punting it right back to us.
Yeah.
But when Bruce mentioned that, that was the first thing I ever heard of anything potentially slated for the bowling alley.
No, well, you know how I feel about it. I've always thought that we should put the library there. That's my personal opinion.
Sure.
I've been able to gain any traction whatsoever, but I think I would have heard.
Sure, of course.
Because I keep a pretty close ear to the ground. If
Yeah.
that property had been sold, or there was even an intimation that a sale was possible,
Yeah.
it's possible somebody went around and did it very, very quietly with the McCartys. But I know that Brookfield Village has negotiated with them on and off for 10 years. I know Tony Lucera has. I know that the guys who wanted to develop back on Laurel Hill Road,
Mhm.
the condos back there, had tried to work with them. Nobody had a lot of success.
Okay.
Harry,
Steve,
Stu, have you heard anything?
no, but Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. Frank, you probably know, but there are a number of proposed building projects that have been, like Steve said, 5 years, 10 years in the process, which there is probably a very small chance that they are going to be developed. But there are a number of them, probably 3 or 4 or 5 in that down, the Brookfield area, one on Stony Hill and down Route 7. So people get nervous or they get anxious because they hear of a building project with 100 units or 50 units. These have been around and highly unlikely that it's going to come to fruition. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. There are 2 projects that are moving ahead, Frank. One is the supermarket.
Mhm.
They've already gone to inland wetlands, and that is moving forward, and that's on the east side of the Still River Greenway.
Right.
And then the Scalzo Group is building 6 buildings, duplexes, so 12 units, 12 housing units on Old Route 7. Whereas if you're going by the,
Yes.
you know where it is?
Yes,
Back
absolutely.
on that one road. And they're going to be putting in the sidewalks and the lamps and everything.
Mhm.
So I support that project too, and the supermarket. But those are the only two that are actually in the process of getting approvals.
Okay.
Now, as Harry said, there's been projects that have been sitting for years, fully approved. 777, you know, the guy who wanted the 7-story
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
been approved for 5 years now. And they've done nothing.
Not for 7-story building.
Not for seven. No, 3.
Right. Don't want to start any rumors.
No, we don't want to start.
Steve, while we're talking about Four Corners, can you bring us up to date with the other 2 buildings for Brookfield Village? They should be
Yeah.
building.
Yes, they will be. I talked to Alan Rothman, their agent, week before last. They're still having a little trouble, getting people moving and stuff because of the pandemic, but they are going to be, what he said is putting a shovel in the ground in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
And starting the process of putting those 2 market rate apartment buildings with all commercial on the first floor. They already have a high-end Asian fusion restaurant signed to move into the southernmost building. And that's good. It's going to take up a good bit of space. And they also are going to have the plaza in between the 2 buildings where they can put their tables. So right now with the pandemic, that works perfectly.
Yeah.
And they
Timing
are
out is a good thing. Yep.
Yeah, that's really a good thing.
Also, Frank, the residential building that's going on across the street from the Greenway, that is going to be condominiums. That is not rent. Those are not rentals. Those are
They're
condominiums.
going to be townhouses, actually.
Yes.
So
Right.
that, which is a positive. So we're going to be generating the most we can for tax revenue.
Yeah, and they're going to be in the 400 to 450 range for each unit. So that's
Yeah.
not low end, and they're
No.
not rentals. Those are going to be for sale. Houses,
Okay.
for sale.
Okay.
Townhouses. For sale.
Right. Thank you.
What else do you want to know, Frank?
I'm good right now. I'm good. Thanks.
Good to see you.
Good to see everybody.
Thanks for coming on and asking a question.
Oh, you're welcome.
I mean, if nobody came on, why are we holding this meeting?
I know. I was going to say, we started talking about budget and, kind of doing the things that you would probably normally see in a Board of Selectmen meeting.
Yeah.
This is not in place of this. We know coffees with the community on the last, Saturday of the month in the morning, and, just an opportunity for have people ask questions and express their ideas. So that's really what this is all about. But if we need to get business done, we get business done. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
Get some of it done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, John Lucas, I see you on there. What are you doing?
I just had a wisdom tooth pulled, so
Oh,
I'm drooling, so I'm gonna go back offline. But I appreciate you guys covering everything, and I appreciate the streaming and Mr. Kwok's questions and all of Marcia's hard work on everything. So thank you guys. Really appreciate
Thank you.
Feel better.
Yeah. Really?
Oh, Steve, if I may, as a resident, may I say something?
Sure.
Sue Slater, 12 White Pine Drive. You did a marvelous job speaking for the library. One book, one read. Your video was released today, and you read from your chapter, and good job. I hope
think I
everyone
have-
goes on and gets,
Think I have a
go to
third
the
career?
library. I do. Yeah. But I encourage everyone to go on to the library website and see. I know Steve Harding has done his. Sharon Sandy has done one. Steve Dunn has done one. You can get your clues. You can win prizes. Read the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve,
I
maybe,
won't tell you who the last one is, though. You have to find out who the last one is.
Harry, you want to say something?
yeah, I was wondering, maybe we could do some type of a Zoom, Mr. Dunn's neighborhood.
I've got the right sweater.
Yeah. Do
You
have
need
the
the
sneakers?
slippers and the
Yeah.
and the slippers. Yeah.
And the slippers. I got slippers too.
Okay.
I see Susan Murphy's on. Susan, did you want to say anything? What is *6 to unmute? Is that right, Dan? I can never remember.
It might be Jerry on Sue's.
It might be Jerry too.
And they're actually on the computer, so just the unmute button on the screen.
Oh yeah, we can't tell from here.
No, we're in the car. We're in the car listening to the going to something else, listening to your meeting. So it's Jerry and Susan.
Hello, Jerry and Susan.
But we're driving, so we're listening in.
Oh,
Good to hear you.
Okay.
you're driving and zooming. That's a new one
No,
for me.
no, I have the phone completely opposite. Don't worry about it. But you can zoom as you drive, can't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so hand free.
Yeah, you can listen in for sure.
Thank you.
Just zoom under the speed limit.
Nice, guys.
Well.
Nice.
Be safe, be well.
So I don't think we have anybody else on. Anybody else have any concerns, issues, things they want to discuss at our coffee meeting?
No, I hear good things. You know, we're starting to open up. We've got the Greenway. I wish a few more people would be wearing their masks or
Not
not
riding
taking their wheeled
bicycles?
vehicles, right?
Yeah.
I was so excited. The first day it opened up, I drove by. I was on my way somewhere and I thought, oh, it's awfully quiet. And I see someone going by on a bike. So that
Yep.
wasn't a good thing. But with the beach, you know, slowly opening soon and the ball fields, it's all good.
Yeah, the ball field
All good.
started opening up yesterday. What people don't realize on that, and I know it's confusing and frustrating, is there is a lot of paperwork and processing that has to go on before we can allow people to use the fields. Each of these organizations has to self-certify that they've read the rules, they will follow the rules, and give us a plan on how they're going to follow the rules. And then we can give them the waiver that they sign, and then they get that to it. It isn't just, okay, we're open, go out and play. So I know it's frustrating, but we're doing this bit by bit. The beach will be opening this Friday, the 26th. We ask people to be very patient with us because we're not going to be able to handle the volume of people that we normally do. We're not setting any quotas or reservation systems to start. We want to see how it goes. But if we do get a crush, then we're going to have to set some kind of reservation. Okay, you can come for 3 hours, a lottery. Mary's working on that right now. We're hoping to be able to accommodate everybody, but if it stays hot like it's supposed to, I think we're going to get a rush of people and we can only handle probably 20% of the people we normally would.
Yeah, I think we're anticipating a lot of stay vacations too. So
Yeah,
even more people in town.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll do the best we can and we'll get everybody out. And if we have to, we go to a reservation system and, you know, just, all right, you get to come for these 3 hours and you get to come for those 4 hours.
Yeah.
We are trying to do summer camp. We're going to be doing that on a delayed basis. And Mary's still putting together the rules on that and how we could do it safely. It doesn't help that the state rules constantly change almost on a day-to-day basis. It's almost like going after a moving target. But we've been doing a pretty good job staying on top of that.
yeah.
And I would just encourage everyone to continue doing their tick checks as we are out and enjoying all of our parks.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Great
they're
advice.
around all the time, but of course, you know, now we're wearing the shorts. We're not wearing the long pants and the high socks. So just be careful.
Yeah, true.
True.
Okay. Anything else anybody want to cover?
No,
No? Well, I'm going to cancel. I'm not going to cancel. I'll just adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we
Okay.
look forward to seeing you next week from Monday, right? Is that right?
Good.
No, this Monday? No,
Is it
week from
Monday?
A week
Our
from
regular
Monday.
meeting on
It's
the
a week
6th.
from Monday.
A
Yeah,
week from
Monday.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, after the 4th.
Yeah.
So
flies.
everybody
Time flies.
be safe.
Yeah.
Be safe, be healthy. Enjoy the 4th, but be careful.
You too, everybody.
Those
Thank you, guys.
fireworks.
all right, thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.